Hey guys, just a quick disclaimer before we get started. The audio for this Q&A was recorded back at the end of January, but for various reasons, I didn't manage to finish editing this video until a few days ago. So some of my answers about how long it'll be until something is released, and my comments about things that have come out since I recorded this, such as a movie about a certain blue hedgehog, might be a bit outdated. Hopefully this clarification clears up any possible confusion about some answers. If you would like me to expand on anything that's come out since I recorded this based on the questions here, you can ask me in the comments or on my respective social media that is linked down below. In the meantime, enjoy the video, thank you so much for your patience, and stay well, stay safe, enjoy. Hello everybody, I'm KC and welcome to the 2020 Q&A video. Just like last time, you guys submitted some pretty interesting questions, so you know what? We're just gonna dive right in. And just a disclaimer, while I have things sort of scripted this time because I tried doing this unscripted and it was a mess, I am still gonna do this in one take. Like each question is just gonna be one take. So if I stutter or speak over myself, that's why I'm probably not gonna retry answering many of these questions. But let's get started with Game Master 3.0, who asks, what is your favorite anime and what is your favorite video game soundtrack of all time? Let's start with favorite anime, which is Cory in the House. Do you even have to ask? Is that still relevant? Probably not. In all seriousness, if I'm honest, Digimon. Specifically, Digimon Frontier. And I realize for some of you that's a really lame answer, but after being a Pokemon purist for 5 years by the time I came across Frontier, any series that could get me into Digimon in 2004 must be pretty good stuff. And Frontier is what ultimately got me into the Digimon franchise, and it became my companion obsession with Pokemon for about 2 or 3 years after that. So that's why at the moment, Digimon Frontier is probably my favorite anime. There are, of course, some honorable mentions and some series that I'm sitting and praying will get dubbed and localized one day, but I don't watch nearly as much anime as some might think. I need to watch more anime. Is My Hero Academia as good as everyone says it is? Let me know. Maybe it's time to get on that hype train. Now, favorite video game soundtrack? Literally anything Sonic. Say what you want about Sonic games, but the soundtracks are consistently excellent. Except for Sonic Boom. Is there anything unawful about the Sonic Boom games? But most of the time, whether it's the fast-paced instrumentals or the kick-ass Crush 40 original songs, if you want a game soundtrack that will get you pumped to race through levels or just your daily life, Sonic delivers. Sonic Adventure 2 soundtrack is probably my favorite of the bunch though. Even though it started with the first adventure, I think the incredibly memorable array of original songs in the games in Sonic Adventure 2 are why it's become a staple of the franchise. And honorable mention, Sonic 06. Flaming turd that it was, has quite possibly the best score in the franchise. Don't at me. So yeah, hope that answers your question. Next, Orange Octopi 7 asks, what's your favorite new show that came out in 2019, i.e. Infinity Train, Amphibia, etc.? Infinity Train. Definitely Infinity Train. Because I don't think we fully appreciate the journey we went on with Infinity Train now that the story that intrigued us all pretty much has been told. When you think about it, not only is that the fact that this got so popular before it ever even technically aired, but because the pilot went viral, expectations were practically unmatched. My expectations were, high. Couldn't have been higher. And the fact that they met and might have even exceeded those expectations in 10 episodes with a concept they could have very easily dragged on for years is something I don't think we fully processed. I really need to do a video on Infinity Train. I know everybody in the world has praised Infinity Train, and that's part of the reason why I haven't reviewed it, but it's just so good. There's so much to say. It takes full advantage of its off-the-wall creative premise. The characters are so lovable. 1-1 may be the best thing to happen to animation in the last 5 years, and the themes are challenging looking, but so down to earth in such a surreal setting. And I really like how they're approaching telling the Infinity Train story through season 2. I won't spoil it for anyone who hasn't seen it, but it's an approach that I don't see in animation often, but has a lot of potential. And I hope Infinity Train has a future beyond this, but if it doesn't, I couldn't have asked for a better ride on that crazy train. But while I'm here, I do want to give an honorable mention again to His Dark Materials. It's weird because I kind of feel like this went under the radar. I know people who were already fans of the books were watching and seemed well received from what I saw, but not a lot of people seemed to talk about it. But it was such an unexpected surprise for me. It was one of those shows that as soon as the first season ended, I raced to Google to see if there was a second one, and thankfully there is. It's coming. I don't know when, but it can't come fast enough. I didn't know much about the His Dark Material books aside from the fact that they exist. They're out there. But now I want to go back and check out the source material, and I cannot wait to set out on more adventures in this world and with these characters. And any adaptation that does that is doing something right. And of your favorite shows that had new episodes in 2019, i.e. MLP, Ducktales, Doctor Who, which new batch of episodes did you enjoy the most? Actually, Doctor Who didn't have any new episodes last year. After the New Year's episode, we had to wait a whole stinking year for more, but I'm not bitter. In all seriousness, I really like this question. In terms of animation, as wonderful and bittersweet as MLP's final season was, and as many new exciting revelations we had in Ducktales, if I'm honest about the show that kept upping the stakes and really surprised me time and time again this year, I've got to give that to Rapunzel's Tangled adventure. I'm serious. If you are not watching this show, you should be. I mentioned it briefly back in last year's Q&A, but this show is way better than I expected it to be, and in the last year, it's only gotten more insane. I am not going to dare talk about it here out of fear of spoiling anything because there are surprisingly a lot of major twists and dramatic reveals in this show, but trust me, it is worth a full watch through. The first 2 seasons are on Disney Plus, just FYI. I don't know if it's my favorite, but if they stick the landing, it will hands down be the best Disney show based on one of their movies. It'll be coming to an end in the next few weeks, and I hope it goes out with a bang. And that this level of quality continues if Disney decides to do animated shows for some of their other movies. Hint, hint, make a Moana series. For a live action example, while there were many great new seasons this year, I gotta give that to The Good Place in honor of its final season. I know the season didn't officially end until this year, but The Good Place was such an unexpected, thought-provoking, and hopeful gem in the world of community television that I have to give it its dues. If you haven't seen it, go watch it. It's one of those shows that could possibly change someone's life or their outlook on the world. It is that impactful. And also, on the nerdier side, I know I can never give just one answer to any of these questions, but I like a lot of things, and I want to shout a lot of things out because I don't review everything I watch, believe it or not. On the nerdier side of things, major props to The Flash and Supergirl. Both of their season's second halves at the beginning of this year were wonderful, and on the Flash side of things, the lead up to Crisis was giving me the most feels the show had since possibly season 3. Nico asked, is there a 2020 show, comic, or movie that you are really looking forward to seeing / reading? Not really anything for comics, but in terms of movies, off the top of my head, of course what Marvel will have to offer with the classic characters like Black Widow and the new characters like the Eternals. I got really into Kingsman: The Secret Service last year, so I'm very much looking forward to the prequel movie Kingsman. Pixar's new movies Soul and Onward look as good as their movies usually do. I'm kind of curious about this new Invisible Man movie they're coming out with. I don't know if it'll be any good, but I'm curious because I really love the Claude Rains Universal Monster Invisible Man. The new SpongeBob movie looks like it'll be cute in the heights because it looks good, and more good movie musicals is always a plus. And of course, the pinnacle of entertainment in 2020, the Sonic the Hedgehog movie. Cross your fingers, folks. And I'm sure there's a ton of others I'm forgetting, but the movies in 2020 look interesting, if nothing else. And I'm very intrigued to see how all this looks by the end of the year. What is your favorite / least favorite piece of entertainment that came out in 2019? Least favorite, easy, Lion King 2019. I did a whole video on it. It's great if you like it. I know a lot of people do, but having to watch that movie twice physically hurt both times. I still stand by that it's not the worst thing ever made. It just rubbed me the wrong way on almost every level, in a way that most movies generally don't with me. But just that one, favorite is a lot harder. I already did TV shows above, so for movies, I'm gonna narrow it down to 2. Avengers Endgame and Detective Pikachu. For Endgame, I know people have their problems with that movie, and that's fine, but I can only speak for myself. And for me, the movie was a wonderful culmination of this unprecedented journey the MCU has taken us on over the years, and I was very emotional by the time the credits rolled. I still plan to do a full review of this movie down the line, so keep an eye out. But for now, in my case, all I can say is that it was a very satisfying experience at the theater. And Detective Pikachu was like the anti-Lion King 2019 for me. Pokemon means more to me than it probably should, but it still means a lot. And I was very nervous when this was announced, and while it may not be Citizen Kane, the fun and heart and adventure this movie provided, while respecting the Pokemon franchise and creatures beautifully, was so wonderful to see unfold. And nothing makes me happier, especially with this thing coming out, that a Pokemon movie is one of the few to break the stigma about bad video game movies. The fact that I left the theater saying I wouldn't mind seeing more live-action Pokemon movies should say it all. And I mean that. This world was so cool to visit in live action. I really want to see more. Let's have a movie with a proper Pokemon trainer journey. I want to see a gym battle. And speaking of Pokemon, since this question says pieces of entertainment in general, I am having a blast in Pokemon Sword. I am loving my team so far, and the journey has been an incredibly fun one. So there's that too. I haven't gotten to the end yet, but that's because I'm taking my time, because this journey has been a blast. Game Master 1 asked, what are your thoughts on Marvel movies and live-action TV shows outside of the MCU? I don't really have many, honestly. The only Marvel movies I've seen that aren't part of the MCU were the Amazing Spider-Man movies. The first one was pretty good, and the second one is hot garbage. At least to me. I know some people like that movie. I'm just not one of them. Honestly, the only reason I got into the MCU as I did is because of the connectivity. I only ever intended to check out the Iron Man movies, but because of that, I had to check out the Avengers, and then it was all over from there. That movie fascinated me with the other characters so much that I had to check out their movies, except for Hulk, whose movie I didn't see until I had to review it. And as far as the shows go, I think they all have a foot in the MCU, even though there isn't any major crossovers to them, I think. But if you mean the Marvel shows in general, I've only seen the entirety of Agent Carter, which I loved and was heartbroken when it was canceled. And I saw the first few episodes of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but then I fell out of it for a bit and never caught up. But I liked what I saw, so maybe I'll come back to it one day. Which leads me to the next question. Do you ever intend on watching any of the ones you missed? I'm pretty sure you've asked me this on the Discord a couple of times, and I've answered it, but just in case anyone else wants to know, because a few people follow to Infinity War and beyond, I don't know, maybe? The shows I don't have any immediate plans to check out beyond the Disney Plus stuff, since there's not as intimidating a back catalog of seasons, but I wouldn't rule it out. And honestly, most of my superhero TV investment is with the Arrowverse right now. It's like Erod the Blockbuster Buster says, Marvel rules the big screen and DC rules the small screen. At least in my opinion. But again, I'm not ruling it out, so I'll tell you what. If I ever watch an entire season of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. or Daredevil or Jessica Jones or whatever, you guys will be the first to know. I will post on my social media that I have watched a whole season of something and maybe even give brief thoughts. That way, you guys will know when I do. That cool? Good. With the movies, again, I wouldn't rule them out. I'm just not that interested. I'm not saying anything like the MCU movies are better than other Marvel movies. Those are just the ones that interest me the most. As someone who had little to no interest in Marvel before the MCU came along, quite frankly, the only non-MCU Marvel movie that's near the top of my watch list is Deadpool. And also, I'm kind of morbidly curious about Venom. I'm sure it doesn't look good, but it looks not good in the fun way, like not good in the irritating way, you know? Is it just me? I don't know. So aside from Deadpool and maybe Venom, maybe one day but not anytime soon. And on a related topic, will the Marvel television shows in the Sony Marvel universe be in Let's Talk About videos? Okay, the shows, right now, not likely. Not only because of my lack of drive, but because the TV shows, there's so much to go over that might be tough to contain into Infinity War and Beyond format, and I want to keep everything MCU under that title. However, I do want to do something for the Disney Plus shows when they come along, especially since they follow characters much more closely connected to the MCU and are probably going to fit into the next phase. So I'm going to see if I can think of a subsection for To Infinity War and Beyond that will fit better with talking about a series. And if those videos do well, maybe I'll expand to cover the Netflix shows and such. Maybe. So if you guys want to see that, give the Disney Plus review some love when the time comes. It'll help me see if there's interest in expanding. With shows like Daredevil and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and such, there's a lot of material, so I'll probably only cover if it's in high demand. The only reason I recovered stuff like Stitch and I, which was also a lot of work, was because a lot of people wanted me to do it. As for the Sony stuff, I don't know. Does anyone even know what's actually going on there? Yes, I know that Sony keeps insisting they're in the same universe. Yes, I know that Michael Keaton appeared as Adrian Toomes in the Morbius trailer, and that was cool, but I don't know if that's enough to include them into Infinity War and Beyond. I think if I ever did, someone from the Sony universe would have to pop up in the official MCU movie. Like, say if Tom Hardy's Venom confronted Tom Holland's Spider-Man, or if Morbius ran into Doctor Strange or something. I don't know. I don't know much about Morbius. Basically, until there is more concrete connectivity, probably not. Sorry. What are your thoughts on your Discord server? It's been a year, so are there any memorable experiences you have? It's gone pretty well. I don't know if there are any standout memorable moments, except that I somehow managed to convince one of my members to watch all of Steven Universe in 4 days. That was pretty impressive to hear about. And I remember who you are, but I'm not saying just in case you don't want me to. But still, that was pretty hilarious to come on and read about. There's definitely been a lot of learning experience through it. I will say that part of it caused a bit of anxiety in the first few months because sometimes people would ask for my opinion on something and I didn't really have one, and I was worried I'd let people down, especially during a week or so when my Wi-Fi went out, and when I finally was able to get to a computer 3 days later, people thought I died. But things have cooled down since, and while it's not a large space, it's become a more relaxing one to share thoughts with you guys more directly when I feel the need. And for you guys to ask me about stuff and engage in certain conversations about things that I don't get to talk about much on the channel. Needless to say, over the last year or so, there's been a lot of Sonic conversation, and it's been pretty fun. I really need to talk about Sonic more. Should I do more Sonic content? Let me know. And speaking of which, we could always use more members, so if you want to join the Let's Talk About Discord server, check out the invite in the description of this and pretty much every video uploaded in the last year. No paywall, it's free to all, just read the rules, and, feel free to jump on in. And finally from Game Master 1, we are in the future, Back to the Future and the Jetsons predicted, right? Where are all the flying cars and hoverboards? Is the future as you expected it to be? Is the future of 2020 what I expected it to be? No, definitely not. On the topic of technology, I think we're getting there with the hover stuff. I mean, we have drones and we have segways. Segways are still on the ground, but it's a start. But I always love hearing how people think flying cars is going to solve traffic problems, but when everyone's got one, we'll be back to square one. It's like what Syndrome said. When everyone's super, no one is. When everyone's got a flying car, there's still traffic. Which is an observation even the Jetsons made. But if we take this question deeper and more seriously, the time we're living in is kind of confusing and sometimes scary, but it's also easier to reach out to people in a way, and I think in that way it's a bit more hopeful. But it's good to remember that this isn't the future. It was at one point, but now the future is tomorrow, a week from now, an hour from now. And if we want to make the future look like the sparkling utopia some of us have imagined in fiction or just in our own minds, that's up to us. To quote from Doctor Who, the world and parts of life are a collection of good things and bad things. The good things don't always soften the bad things, but vice versa, the bad things don't necessarily spoil the good things and make them unimportant. And I think we have to remember that when bad things come along, which, yeah, if you read the news, there's been bad things lately. But I think how I look at the present at both personally and globally, and hopefully in the future, there can be more good things that can help soften the bad things. Bet you didn't think I'd get all serious there, did ya? It probably made no sense, really, but, you live day by day. But speaking of Doctor Who, Smartmouth asks, since I hear you are a big Doctor Who fan, now where'd you get that idea? Who is your favorite Doctor and why? I've answered this a few times, and I think even in last year's Q&A, so keeping it brief, my favorite is Matt Smith, the 11th Doctor. My first proper episode of Doctor Who was the 11th Hour, and I've been a fan of the show and him ever since. And that love only grew through his incredible run as the Renegade Time Lord. He embodied pretty much everything that makes the character wonderful, interesting, compelling, etc. I can go on for a while, and I have multiple times. But it's 11, and at this rate, it's probably always going to be. And what do you think of the new incarnation of the Doctor? I was all excited about a female Doctor, but I find her kind of a letdown because she has none of the moral grayness that makes me love the show. I can definitely see where you're coming from there. For me, I really enjoy Jodie Whittaker's run. She has some great episodes, and as I said in my The Woman Who Fell to Earth review, I was one of those people who didn't want a female Doctor. But Whittaker won me over pretty quickly. She's very eccentric, incredibly enthusiastic, and quite compassionate. But you do have a point. We haven't quite hit the moral gray area the Doctor walks along yet. We've gotten bits of the lost child of Gallifrey with over 2,000 years of love and loss within her, even in the first episode, but not much of the fury of the Time Lord. At least not yet. As I'm recording this, the episode Fugitive of the Jadoon was aired last week, I think. I won't say what happened to avoid spoilers, but there has been some massive revelations, and the Doctor trying to deal with a lot by herself that might bring out that fury deep inside her. Even if it's just for like a moment of misjudgment, I feel like if we're gonna get there at any point in Whittaker's run, it's gonna be in this season, maybe in the season finale, but we'll have to wait and see. If I had to guess why we haven't seen that side of this Doctor yet, it could be because we got a lot of that with Peter Capaldi. Like a lot. Like, yikes. So I think in universe, the Doctor wanted to use this new life to revel in her adventures after all the loss she felt in her last life. And out of universe, they might have just wanted to lighten things up a bit after such an intense run. Now that I think about it, the 13th Doctor feels kind of like the 5th. Maybe blonde doctors are just generally more optimistic. But either way, we've still got a while in Whittaker's run, and I'm having a lot of fun so far, and it looks like a lot of substances hitting the fan lately, so we'll see what happens. Leroy629, nice name, asks, are you neurodivergent? If so, how does it affect your daily life? Wow, that's an interesting question. Well, I mean, no, but probably here's the thing. I've never been diagnosed with anything, but I wouldn't rule it out. I actually asked my mom about this when I got this question because I knew I had been tested for something. And she said that I was tested for Asperger's in 2001, 2002 maybe. And while I checked quite a few boxes, I didn't check all of them. So it was decided that I didn't have Asperger's at least. And from what I know about it, I'm pretty sure I still don't. But because of how much our understanding of mental health has grown over the years, even though it's far from perfect, I wouldn't rule out that I have something, but I don't feel comfortable saying, yep, I'm neurodivergent without a proper diagnosis, since I feel that's disrespectful to those who are confirmed to have them. I will say that I do have anxiety, I get very fixated on stuff I enjoy to a laser-focused degree, and I tend to have trouble in social situations, especially with holding conversations. But simply and quickly, how I help work through some more inhibiting behavioral patterns is finding people who speak my language, for lack of a better word, through the friends I've managed to make over the last couple of years, with my mom who understands me better than anyone, and even at work. I've also gotten more comfortable with sitting back and letting someone else go and just listening instead of just worrying how I'm going to keep it going after they're done. And of course, there's this channel where I've expressed myself in a way I don't get too much in my daily life, and that has been very freeing and assuring as well. So, as someone who is not an expert by any stretch of the imagination, is still working through many of my shortcomings and might not even be neurodivergent, though again it's very likely. How it affects my daily life is me trying to work beyond my limitations and turning my weaknesses into strengths. Basically, knowing my limits, but trying to push them, if that makes any sense. And I will say, I am way better at that now than I was 5 years ago. But again, I have no clue. Galactic Equestria 21 asks, congratulations on reaching your new milestone, Kate. Thank you. My questions are, what do you hope to see in Ducktales Season 3? Honestly, the same level of quality and respect we got in Season 2. There were so many amazing and interesting new elements introduced in Season 2, and it looks like Season 3 is going to have even more of that to offer. And if each of these character introductions are as good as Della's and Darkwing's, we are in for a spectacular season of television. But based on the stuff we already have available to us, there are a few things I'd like to see expanded on, and I'm going to put a time code here if you haven't seen the Season 2 finale, so you can skip to the next question, since I'm definitely going to be dropping spoilers. Now that Donald is back, I'd love to have an episode of Della and Donald reconnecting. The boys, Webby, and even Launchpad got a lot of dedicated moments with Della in the latter half of the season, and I'd love it if Donald got that too. With Season 1 giving major development for Dewey and Season 2 doing the same with Louie, maybe Season 3 will be Huey's turn for a season-long arc, and I'd be interested to see what that looks like. They keep teasing a Gyro-focused episode for Season 3 that I'm really looking forward to. I think Gyro is the only one at the moment sorely in need of a focused episode. Definitely hoping to see more of Webby, Violet, and Lena's adventures. They are such a cool team. The introduction of Fowl brings a whole cornucopia of possibilities, especially when getting a look at its members, and for some reason, I'm very curious as to what the story is behind the Vultures, because after the reveal, I'm betting there's more to them than we ever thought. But my number one want for Season 3, and I think you guys know where this is going, is hands down a Darkwing Duck, Gizmo Duck adventure. The pieces are in place, it's only a matter of time, and it is something I desperately need in my life. I'm just as excited for Goslin as everyone else, but I want this way more. Sorry, Goss. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of exciting things that I'm not thinking of, but from the stuff we already have to work with, there are some things I'm really interested in seeing expanded on, and hopefully they will be. Is it okay to make fan art of your OC for you? Yes, 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 1,000 times yes. And if you guys do make fan art of my OC and post it on Twitter and Tumblr, be sure to tag me. I'd love to see it. You can find both my handles in the description. Only thing I ask is, try to keep it in the PG-13 area. No clopping is what I'm saying. I don't want to see my OC in clopping or shipping situations. Please? Okay? Good. But thank you for asking, that's very sweet. Kaylee Matthew Commendator asks, well, I'm definitely excited for certain stuff from you coming soon. I know you are. As for the Q&A questions, have you been seeing any new Cartoon Network shows lately, like Craig of the Creek and Infinity Train? Well, I clearly saw and enjoyed Infinity Train, as discussed earlier, and I watched Steven Universe Future, which has been interesting as someone who's fond of epilogue-style stories, but at the moment, that's pretty much it. Though I have been meaning to check out that show Victor and Valentino. That looks like a lot of fun. If anybody has seen it and knows if it's any good, let me know. How long does it usually take for you to edit videos? That varies from video to video. Depending on how long the video is, audio editing can take anywhere between 3 days to a week, and video editing anywhere between 2 to 5 days. And there's also factors like how long it takes me to gather screenshots, and even just when personal stuff gets in the way of me being able to or want to work on videos. Because some days are just exhausting, you know? For a recent example, my Study in Pink review took about 3 to 4 days to edit the audio, 2 days of gathering the images I needed, and then 2 to 3 days of actual video editing. So yeah, I don't have a set time, it varies considerably when you put all of the factors into account. What are your hopes in the next coming season of DuckTales 2017? I already answered that. I seem to be becoming more known for my DuckTales content, which I wouldn't have guessed, but that's pretty cool. Have you tried Disney Plus yet? I pre-ordered it the day before launch and love it. There's just so much on it. Sure, it's great to have all the classic Disney films on there and whatnot, but I've been loving revisiting Disney animated shows that were so hard to find because Disney is terrible at releasing watching their shows on home media most of the time. I nearly passed out when I was scrolling through on launch day and realized they had Teacher's Pet. They have Teacher's Pet, guys. Holy crap. I've also been enjoying some of the original programming. I'm not really a Star Wars fan, so I didn't watch The Mandalorian or anything, but The World According to Jeff Goldblum was a ton of fun. Encore is so my trash right now. I just finished the One Day at Disney documentary, which was such a fun watch. The new Pixar shorts are really cute, and we can finally watch Legends of the Three Caballeros legitimately. Woo! This is the first streaming service that I'm paying for myself. My parents have Netflix and such. And so far, it is worth every penny. I watched so much old and new stuff on it, and I'm only scratching the surface. Guys, I can finally watch Gargoyles. That's near the top of my list, and I'll let you know when I do. Any more thoughts on new certain Disney shows coming up, like The Owl House? As I'm recording this, I've seen the first 2 episodes of The Owl House and liked it way more than I thought I would, which is weird because I was looking forward to it and it looked great, but the way the show is written and presented really struck a chord. The world is fun and the characters are unbelievably endearing. I'm sure Luz is going to connect with a lot of viewers. I might do a series review like I did with Ducktales once enough episodes are out, but we'll see. Aside from that, most of the Disney animated shows I'm into have been on for a while. Have you watched Amphibia yet? I've seen the first 4 or 5 episodes, and I intend to see the rest because I know it has fans and I liked what I saw. I just got distracted by some other stuff and haven't gotten back to it yet. Favorite Ducktales 2017 episode of season 2, or do I have to wait until you do those let's talk about videos first about them? I mean, you should. Should I answer this? If I do, it might discourage people from watching the videos. Now I'm gonna answer, because honestly, I don't know if I have a favorite yet. The last group of episodes in season 2 I haven't even rewatched yet, but if I'm honest, I think we know what the real standout of this season was. Yeah, there was a ton of returning characters, and there was an invasion from the moon, and a criminal organization is resurfacing, and Huey, Dewey, and Louie's long-lost mother returned, and blah 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 blah. But let's be real. What did people really take away from this season? Darkwing Duck, son! And yeah, The Duck Knight Returns was pretty fantastic, and that's all I'm going to say about it now because I do plan to review it fairly soon. It keeps getting pushed back. I've been meaning to do this for months. We'll get to it, I promise. I'm very excited to cover it. And our last batch of questions comes from Daylover, who, first of all, asks, what does your cutie mark mean? Good question, because I am very proud of this cutie mark design. It went through a lot of prototyping before I decided what it would look like. I wanted something that would express creativity but make it stand out from everyone else who has a film reel or a paintbrush or a pencil as their mark. In the end, I decided that the thing I'm most passionate about and what I wanted my cutie mark to mean is my love for the art of media and the creativity that manifests from it. My mark represents the creation of the media that I love and the inspiration it sparks in me to create things on my own. Now I use it as my logo for everything, and I even had it put on a hat that I wear everywhere. Though when someone asks about it, I don't call it a cutie mark, but a cutie mark is a representation of your skills, passion, and essence in a sense. And whether or not you call it that, I think this image does that very well for me. I love it so much. It's so great. How long have you been a brony? The first episode I saw of the show was Luna Eclipse in late October 2012, and I think I was officially calling myself a brony by the end of that year. So about 7 years? Yikes, it's been 7 years. What is time? And Daylover's got a bunch more questions, but they're all like favorite ... questions. So to end out the video, we're gonna lightning round this. Okay, favorite food and drink. That's an interesting one. In terms of snacks, I'm a sucker for pretty much anything chocolate, just not with peanut butter or caramel or nuts or all that crap. For a meal, I like all sorts of pastas, but my go-to and general favorite is probably baked ziti. Simple, but it works for me. Pasta, cheese, and tomato sauce blended together beautifully. There are very few things in this world that can compare. Favorite pastime thing? Do you mean like hobby? If so, probably this. This is definitely the hobby I spend a lot of my time on now. If that's not what you mean, then sorry. Favorite book? practically anything Sherlock Holmes, but you guys all knew that. But if I had to choose either The Hound of the Baskervilles, it's a classic for a reason, or the collection of short stories in the memoirs of Sherlock Holmes, you'll find some of the best short stories for the great detective in that collection. Honorable mention goes to Frankenstein, because it's Frankenstein. Favorite movie? I think I'll hold off on that for another video. Favorite superhero? In general, probably Danny Phantom. He was a superhero I loved the most as a kid. He was like my Spider-Man. But for Marvel, Iron Man, though Doctor Strange is rising in the ranks there. And for DC, The Flash. Favorite pony? Fluttershy. There's just so much I love about Fluttershy that I've gone on incessantly about in the past. She's so sweet and soft and perfect and wonderful, and we need to protect her. Favorite YouTuber? Too many to name. I don't have an all-time favorite person because I like a lot of different YouTube content. And since I answered a question about what other YouTubers I like to watch in last year's Q&A, I'll use this question and answer it with a few YouTubers that I've either discovered this year or gotten more into their content. Legal Eagle, one of those real person in this occupation reacts to fictional depictions of it channels that's gotten popular over the last year or so, and it's one of the best and most interesting in my opinion. He goes over both fictional cases and real-world legal incidents, and he knows how to make both fascinating and entertaining. Pat Mac. If you are a huge nerd and are fascinated by merchandise like I am, this guy is one of the best out there for talk about merch and collecting, primarily Sonic stuff though. I'd recommend his Soap Shoe Sonic video. It's a weirdly triumphant and incredibly relatable story if you're a collector. Mr. TARDIS / Trilby Reviews. Now, I've been subscribed to Mr. TARDIS for a while now, and I think since like 2013. And I go back and forth on this guy because sometimes when he doesn't like something, it comes off as definitive, like how can anyone like this sort of attitude? But there's definitely a balance there, and he's always articulates his points well, whether it's a positive or negative review. And I will say that he always makes me think. If he likes something more than I did, I might go, oh, I'd never thought of it that way. And if he hates something that I liked, I would go, okay, so why doesn't this bother me? And I appreciate critique that makes me think more about my entertainment and why I view it the way I do compared to how other people view it. He also did this great series of videos going over all the Dalek appearances called Daleksember, which was amazing and the main reason for the shout out. Seriously, if you're a Doctor Who fan, go watch it. It's overwhelming, but it's amazing. The Alpha J Show. I'd say one of the most interesting animation reviewers out there right now, with some great ongoing series and insights, and even bringing up a few topics, particularly with stuff like Fairly Odd Parents, that I find very engaging to watch. You want a recommendation? Check out his Meet the Odd Parents review. It's a really underrated episode, and somehow the only review of it on this site is from Alpha. Don't know how that's possible, but you know, there you go. That gives you more incentive to check it out. Check it out. Black Scare Film Z. I discovered this guy on Discord and he helped me out with some editing in my Shadow War review, but checking out his content was another great hidden gem on this site. He's been doing this for years, so there is a ton of content to choose from, mostly focusing on books, which is another area of review that is sort of overlooked. I know there's the booktuber community, but Black Scarab covers some more unusual novels that are really intriguing to hear about. He definitely, like I said, he definitely has the biggest backlog of pretty much everybody I'm recommending, and it's the one I'm the most intent on going through and finding some hidden gems in there. Dave Lee Down Under. If you check out Disney content, you might already know this guy, but I got really into his channel this past year, and it's grown exponentially in that year. Again, very varied content from animation history to current movie reviews to collection videos and announcements for Blu-ray releases, which is super helpful for me. It's why I own the Mary Poppins Returns Steelbook. I love this guy's content and enthusiasm, and I can't wait to see more. And finally, quite possibly my biggest YouTube discovery of 2019, Wait in the Wings. I've mentioned him a lot but he is such a cool guy and really filling a need in the essay/analysis community, which is theater analysis and history. It's great and insightful stuff. His content is getting quite varied and interesting, and he's become a really cool friend. I was lucky enough to find his stuff when he was just under 100 subs, and is now way over that, but I'm very proud of that and that I have been able to work with him, and I hopefully will get to work with him again in the future. We'll see. But it's very, very likely. Go check him out if you haven't. Trust me, you will not be disappointed. And with that, there we have it. That is the 2020 Q&A. I dread to think of how long this is going to come out, but still, these were very interesting questions, which is why this took so long, because I wanted to give these the thought and dedication I felt they deserved. So thank you guys for submitting such interesting stuff. Thank you for your continued support. If you want to engage any more about the answers I gave, feel free in the comments. And as I keep saying in the video, because, you know, a few people have wanted more interaction, all relevant social media in the description. And keep an eye out for what else is to come. Yeah, okay, I'm gonna go now. Thank you guys so much, and I will see you next time. Take care of yourself.